What is up everyone, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I'll be showing you guys 7 strategies and techniques that you can start using to improve at box fights and win more fights overall in Chapter 2 Season 7. If you go on to enjoy this video, be sure to drop a like on it, subscribe if you're new and want to see more, and finally, if you'd like to help your boy out a bit extra, then you can use code Teckoh in the Fortnite item shop, as it's absolutely free and it really helps me out a ton. With that said though, and without further ado, let's get in the video. Alrighty guys, so hopping into this first tip, it's a pretty simple one to be honest, and this tip is basically just to use the new weapons and items in practice. Whether you're grinding out 1v1s in your own creative map, or if you're going into battle lab and like practicing early game, or even if you're just playing arena and just some regular solos, I really recommend that you guys try to pick up the new weapons such as the suppressed SMG, the heavy AR, the bolt, the railgun, and all those weapons, all the stuff that they've added, removed, and basically just get really good with the meta. It's a bit of a simple tip, but this one really works wonders and can be one of the best things to help you improve at box fighting in this season. Basically just try to force yourself to adapt to all the new stuff, that way you're early to get good with it, and really just it helps you a ton. But with that said, I just wanted to say that and get it out of the way, because I know a lot of players tend to do the same exact like AR pump type thing and carry the same loadout every game. But seriously, if you're trying to adapt to this meta and become an insane box fighter, I strongly recommend that you try to pick up the new weapons and items as often as possible. This also goes for landing at the new spots, kind of like getting used to the purple area, getting used to these little satellite locations and stuff. Basically just getting used to the map changes, getting used to the weapons, and basically forcing yourself to adapt to this new meta. But now that we've had a chance to kind of go over that little tip, I want to get into the actual technique. So the first technique is one that I call the above head ramp floor peek, and it's one that I learned from the pro player Martaz. If you don't know Martaz, he's a pro player for FaZe Clan, absolutely insane player. I recommend you check him out if you haven't already. Alright, so for this technique, you're basically going to have a ramp below you, a floor above you, and a ramp above the box, and you're going to edit this back part of the floor, and as you can see, you get this really nice peak where you're not exposed for long and you basically get bumped right back down after you shoot. So there's a few example scenarios you can use this in. One's in like a box fight like this, like if somebody's editing on you, for example. As you can see, you can get a really nice peek just like that. Obviously, they're not going to be like standing still like my opponent is here, but it's still applicable to these types of situations, basically, if you get edited on or something like that. Another option you have is to use this when you're kind of building up to an opponent. So like when you're in a build fight, you can basically go like this, and oftentimes they're going to run into your ramp. You can also box them in and basically finish them off just like that if you want to like jump to the other side or anything like that. If I could hit my shot, that would be really nice, but basically you kind of get the gist of this. Essentially though, you just go like that, you shoot, and yeah, that's it. As you can see in the background gameplay right now, Martaz basically executes this perfectly, and he really does an amazing job with this technique. I really recommend that if you're struggling to understand this technique, that you go ahead and check out Martaz's recent videos, as he does this technique all the time and basically executes it perfectly every time. Alright guys, so moving on to the third technique of this video, this is another one that Martaz has been using a lot, but I personally learned this from Ryuzanami, who's an awesome YouTuber. He posts a ton of incredible tips and tricks like this, so once again I recommend you check out his channel if you haven't. And basically this is the Railgun Box Face. So this is for whenever you're above an opponent's box, kind of like this, even like 2 layers up or however much you're up basically. So as you guys can see right here, the railgun can basically shoot straight through 2 builds just like that, and it completely gets rid of them both. So basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to aim kind of towards the corner so my opponent can't tell what I'm doing, and basically I'm just going to charge up my railgun and jump in. And as you can see, I can get an easy shot on my opponent and basically jump straight into their box. This technique is extremely useful, and it's one of the best techniques you can use with this railgun, to be honest. Obviously, this thing is insanely OP. It literally shoots straight through builds and can kill somebody in almost 1 shot. I think the gold variation hits for 188 headshot, so yeah, obviously that's kind of self-explanatory. Another option you guys have to really make your opponent oblivious to it is to kind of look in another direction and pretend you're shooting somewhere else. And then at the last second, you kind of look down and jump in your opponent's box and they're dead. Obviously, you have to get used to the timing of the actual technique itself before you start doing that, but that's another really good way to kind of confuse your opponent and make them think you're not going to jump in their box. Obviously, guys, this is a really good way to kind of buff this technique, because obviously if your opponent sees a massive red laser in their face coming from above, then they're going to start to hold their floor and cone and kind of just spam it. But if they don't know, if they think you're shooting somewhere else basically and you kind of like flip to it last second, then there's really not much they can do. They're not going to be holding their floor and cone above their box. Obviously, you can still phase in if they are holding those, but it's a lot harder to time it properly, so I recommend you try to use this as often as possible. That way you don't have to stress too much over the perfect timing of it. Alright guys, so moving on to this fourth technique of the video, this is yet another tip from Ryuzanami, and this one is called the Railgun Wall Replace. So basically the way you're going to do this is you're basically trying to take your opponent's wall and potentially the build inside their box as well using the railgun. So let's just say, for example, my opponent's holding their wall, and I can essentially time this to try and take the wall and at least take what's inside. As you know, the railgun breaks two builds, so basically if I'm shooting this inside and they have something in their box, then it's going to break both. So if I can't get the wall, I can at least get like a ramp or something in there and kind of like pressure them. And if you have really good timing as well, it's going to be pretty difficult, but you can also get both of them and like get a cone in your opponent's box and a wall. That's really hard to do, and it'll take a lot of practice, but it still is plausible. And obviously in this situation, you're not going to want to just be standing here in front of their wall because they'll obviously just edit on you. So try to have some sort of cover, maybe be covered like this or something, or like on top of a ramp where you kind of have a way out in case they decide to edit on you. And boom, there you go. Once again though, this whole thing that I did with this is kind of just for demonstration purposes, so you won't actually want to go just straight up against their wall and do that. So another option you guys have in team play as well that I wanted to mention with this kind of tip is that you can have one player shoot the railgun at the wall and one other player hold it. So basically it's way easier to take. You just take the wall, you can kind of edit in, go for shots, and basically just get a free kill. I just wanted to bring that up as that's a really good option as well. All right, guys, so moving on to the fifth tip. This is another one that I really recommend you guys start using. It has been shown in YouTube videos before, and it is fairly known by the competitive community, but still against casual players and even some pretty good competitive players, it still works like a charm. And this is the fake box edit out. So what this is basically I'm pretending to leave the box and I'm kind of using my movement to go back. So in this situation, I basically edit out of my box to the side and my opponent thinks I'm going there. And for bonus points, I can also kind of go in that direction, and at the last second, once I run in that direction, they think I'm about to leave. I'm basically just going to go back around and go for the shot. Preferably you won't hit them for 27 in that situation like I did, obviously, if you can hit your shot. So basically it'll look like this in full speed. I go up here, I pretend I'm leaving, and I jump on them. Overall, it's a really simple technique. It requires pretty decent movement, but it's really not that hard to get used to, and it works like an absolute charm against even some pretty good players. Especially if you already have your opponent low and you just want to avoid them one-pumping you, basically. It's a really good way to kind of avoid that happening and get a really good shot off. And if you have no other choice, it's also a really good way to kind of take a 50-50. Obviously, you want to take 50-50s as little as possible, but if you do have to take a 50-50, if you're really low or something like that, you can try to trick them out and go for the kill. All right, guys, so this next technique is not one that you should really use to like kill your opponent, but rather one you can use to disengage from a bad fight. So let's just say we're up here really high and we're getting third partied or something. Really, I don't have much of a choice. So basically this tip is a launch pad trick that you can use to disengage really fast and not be like gliding through the air and get beamed and potentially killed. So basically the way this looks is I'm going to place a floor below, a ramp, a floor above like that, and then I'm basically going to place my launch pad down. So when you place this, what you do is basically just jump up on it, and as you can see, I go down, I don't take a cent of fall damage, and I'm basically able to get away safely. As well as that, if you get down and your opponent's still up there and they're kind of clueless, you can either destroy the launch pad so they can't get away and they're kind of stuck, or you can also try to break the fight down. Obviously, if it's a not well like supported fight, you can easily just break them down, and unless they get over to the launch pad or figure out what they're doing, then you know, you can also break the launch pad while that's happening. Basically, they're dead. So I really just wanted to bring this tip up because it's a really useful tip. It's not an actual tip to like use inside a box fight, like if you're in a good situation, but if you're getting shot down, third partied, or if your opponent's just kind of beating you up, that's a really good option you can use to get out of the fight and potentially even kill your opponent. I strongly recommend that after you use that technique, your first instinct is to kind of break the launch pad because it can help your opponent get away if you obviously don't break it. And as well as that, if they're not able to get down and they're kind of just rushing down, especially if it's close to height limit, you have a really good chance to kind of break the fight down and get a kill. So in conclusion, that technique is a great way to disengage and can also potentially get you a free kill on somebody who's beaten you in an actual fight. All right, guys, so moving on to tip number 7. This is actually the last tip of this video, and this one is a way you can improve your aim for box fights. So as you know, what I've covered so far have mainly been just like general techniques and strategies you can use, but I want to show you one way you can also improve your aim, and this is one that I've been using constantly and recommending constantly to people. And this map is called Tito's Season 6 Warm-Up. So obviously the title says Season 6, but it's still relevant for Season 7. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. And as it says here, he also has a Season 7 version coming out soon, so hopefully I'll be able to cover that in a future video. But basically, you're just going to want to hop in here and just grab some weapons, whatever weapons you want to use. He has the suppressed SMG in here as well, which is new. He also has the lever action, the tactical, the burst, all the stuff that was just recently re-added. And yeah, so basically he has a bunch of different aim training scenarios in here, and one that I particularly like is the solo player aim duel. Basically, this aim duel is you against a target, and you're basically in a box and aim dueling. Your target's moving around and you can move around, and it's basically just like an actual box fight. So as you might be able to tell, this can carry over really well to your actual box fighting, and it's kind of like a replacement for multiplayer aim duels. Obviously, you have your kind of like raider aim duels and stuff like that you need another player for, but that's a really good option if you don't have anyone else to play with. Another really good choice for this option is to do the 1x1 fight, which helps you like kind of improve your flicks for box fighting. Obviously, it's a really helpful map as well. This kind of, you can see how it carries over. Basically, it just requires you to flick and try to get good shots off in a 1x1 box. So yeah, I strongly recommend that you use those two scenarios, the aim duel and the 1x1 fight, if you're looking to improve your aim in box fights. They're really quick. You can do them in just a few minutes if you want to. And yeah, they're overall a really good way to improve your aim for box fighting, especially the aim duel section. I personally love that so much. And you also have this little box fight section here. I just wanted to bring it up since it obviously is relevant to the video, where you can kind of practice against these little bots. Do whatever edits and techniques you want to do, basically. Boom, 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 boom. I'm the best player. Let's go. But yeah, guys, I just wanted to mention that Teckoh map for the end of this video because it's a really good map you can use to improve your aim for box fighting. And obviously, aim is a very critical part. If you have trash aim, then you can do all the techniques in the world, but it won't work. So with that said, I'm going to put the code up to Teckoh's map right now. Once again, I really recommend you check it out and try out some of the scenarios. They really help a ton with box fighting, and it's one of the best ways to improve your aim. As well as that, it also has most of the new weapons and stuff already, even at the start of the season, and he'll probably have a Season 7 version as well, which I'll probably cover in a future video once it gets out. With all that said, though, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to drop a like on it and consider subscribing if you want to see more content just like this in the future. Thank you all for watching once again, though, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now.